was more gritty than anything I had seen before. I am familiar with the works of Deicide, Dismember and Dissection, but this is something different. This looks serious. This looked like it had some real vampire vibes. So what makes this album so special after all these years? Transilvanian Hunger is not only a gem of old Norwegian black metal, it is one of the earliest pure examples of the genre. With this album, Darkthrone shed every last trace of their musical influences. There isn't a hint of death metal, heavy metal, thrash, punk, or even classical. This album is comprised of nothing but distinct black metal elements that have developed within the scene up until the point, and this was probably the first black metal album to do so. But what about the music? Purity implies nothing of musical quality. Transilvanian Hunger sounds like one large sweeping cold wind blowing through the forest at night. The music on this album might be raw and minimal, but the pacing and variation is just right that there is enough here to keep things interesting all throughout the album. The riffing is almost completely comprised of multiple guitars, tremolo picking single notes to weave a dense, grim tapestry. To my knowledge, not many or possibly no other bands were using this style of riffing before this album. These grim riffs are the core that leads this album. The bass just follows the guitars and the drums usually play constant 16th note simple blast beat which became so distinctly black metal. There isn't much point going on at any about the music on this album. The songs are well written, consistent, but with a little variation. So in conclusion, the world needed Transilvanian Hunger. It needed this pure, undiluted example of black metal. If you haven't experienced this album yet, I highly recommend listening to it during some type of solitary activity such as a long walk. Carach Angren invited a disproportionate amount of derision and skepticism from many musical purists. For one, they're actually a kitsy synthesizer band that stubbornly self-identifies as black metal. Then there are the overly dramatic nature of their compositions and lyrics to contend with. To top it off, they gained a reputation in their early years for putting on inept live shows with a reach comically in excess of their grasp. All the while of these criticisms are true, well, most any they tie up live since adding Jack from Deicide / Cannibal Corpse. What equally true is that when experienced as a piece of music rather than a failed attempt at meeting a genre preconceptions, death came through a phantom ship slays in every way imaginable. I'll say it again. This isn't really black metal, not even the Dewey Boogie more meets this kind of black metal. The sighting has about 10 seconds of blast beats and shrieks that could pass for black metal if you didn't listen to the rest of the album, but that's about it. A more meaningful comparison would be the more soundtrackish moments of Symphony X. Think moments like 1 and 4 from the Odyssey, stretched out for entire song lengths with the shredding of Michael Romeo replaced by less flashy but still inventive melodic black metal guitar parts and talented multi-layered vocals, raspy and snarling, growling over the entire mix. If this doesn't sound like the greatest thing in the world already, well, you may not enjoy this album, but at least you have my condolences for your profound hearing loss. Another meaningful comparison would be between this album and Lamendam, particularly in the way that this LP overcomes many of the debut's flaws while preserving its strengths. On the former end, the production is more crisp and airy than before. Compared to Lamendam's, turn all the instruments up to 11 and let them fight each other for audibility. Approach to guitars and drums have all been scaled back, so that Cerebral's vocals and Ardex's keyboard sequencing dominate the landscape uncontested. As with Lamendam, the vocals still used on the album are all over the place. Black metal raughs, death metal growls, full gothic tritones. There are even clean shouting and choir singing that both sparse but very effective when they appear. The instruments are more diversified than previously improved overall. Much more expensive strings and an enlarged orchestral palette, and even a few weird choices like theremin in one song and another instrument that, in keeping with a nautical theme, sounds vaguely like a concertina. The lyrics deserve special mention since not only is the storytelling that underpins this album more focused and coherent than on Lamendam, but the words of the story itself are incredible in their own right. It would never cease to amaze me how guys who speak English as a second language can write such poetic and effective lyrics. And the Consequence Macabre is a perverse highlight in this regard. They tell of a haunted man who murders his family in a fit of madness related so eloquently that years later I still have trouble listening to it. And Cerebral's rhythmic and highly varied delivery invariably turns even the most prosaic moments into captivating moments. I literally have nothing bad to say about this album. You can say it's not really black metal, that it sounds more like Emerson, Lake and Palmer with a harsh vocals and more double kick, that the guitars were buried to make way for even more keyboards, and that the lyrics are thesaurus abusing gothic drama fare. But to say that any of these factors have a negative impact on the music at all is flat out wrong. Quite the opposite. This is an enormously powerful and effective work from beginning to end. So what do you think was the better album? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.